Hi there, this is Margaret, and welcome back to Radiant Wholeness. If you're constantly worrying about what other people think about you, then this episode is really going to help you. I'm going to make sure that you understand why you struggle with this kind of social anxiety and worrying. And I'm going to give you 3 amazing mindset hacks that I have used myself so that you can stop worrying about being judged, raise your self-confidence, and just feel so much safer and more joyful in social situations.
As always, before we get started, make sure you hit the bell and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss a thing. Welcome to Radiant Wholeness, the soulful sanctuary for big-hearted high achievers longing to cultivate more joy, fulfillment, and inner peace. I'm your host, Margaret, and I'm an expert at helping high achievers create the life their soul is longing for. I'm a published author and a master life coach, and I'm all about creating massive social impact while loving yourself, speaking your truth, and connecting with the divine on the inside. Now let's dive in.
Make sure you stay until the end of this video because I'm going to share with you a very special free opportunity for us to connect one-on-one so that we can map out how to create more joy and fulfillment and deep, intimate connection with the people in your life. So here's the deal. We all want to feel like we fit in with the people around us, and we want to feel safe and loved and appreciated by them. We crave community and acceptance wherever we go. And in fact, according to research, this need to belong is so basic to human behavior that it's the first premise of virtually every theory of social or cultural behavior that's based around this drive that we have to maintain these significant interpersonal relationships with people. And this need to belong is evolutionary too. So for most of the time that the human nervous system was developing, we were tribal people, and we needed to feel safe inside of our tribe in order to survive. Nobody could survive alone. So this is why when you feel like you don't belong, or you feel like, people don't like you, you can be filled with so much anxiety because on a biological level, your body is reading this non-belonging as a threat to your ability to survive. So it puts you on this high alert and it makes your thoughts race and, your heart go really fast so that you're paying attention to this risk to your survival, right? It's actually protective. But the thing is, of course, that this human race has really outgrown our nervous systems. Because, if somebody in your tribe doesn't like you, it's not a threat to your survival anymore, right? But your nervous system doesn't know that. And so it's still going to make you feel super anxious if, a colleague disapproves of something, even though objectively it's not a threat to your well-being. Now, here's the other important thing that you need to understand, which is that if you grew up in a home where you felt like you really belonged, then that would have trained your nervous system to be more calm because you would have had that feeling growing up that, in fact, your tribe does love you and have your back. But if you're watching this video and you struggle with social anxiety, then chances are you're like me. Like when you were growing up in your home, you didn't feel like you belonged there. And again, as a kid, not belonging in your home feels like a threat to your survival. So even though you're an adult now and you probably have friends that align more with who you truly are or a career that aligns more with who you truly are, your nervous system and your unconscious mind that was formed when you were in as a child, they still hold that belief that you don't belong and that these people are going to judge and abandon you. That's the blueprint you hold. And so personally, I never felt like I belonged kind of anywhere. When I was growing up, my parents were always at each other's necks and therefore at our necks as kids. And so home certainly felt like a scary place where I didn't really belong. And I also didn't resonate with the values of the place I grew up or the church that I was raised in. Even when I went to high school, there was this strict division between the sports kids and the theater kids. And I kind of felt like both, which meant I didn't really belong in either place or in either tribe. And all of this felt so scary to me when I was a kid because I felt so alone and so lonely. And I just assumed that something was wrong with me because I didn't really belong anywhere. And because I didn't want to feel those nasty feelings of isolation and self-doubt, I developed that social anxiety, right? And I developed this obsession over figuring out all the time what people think of me, how they're judging me, how to get them to like me, and how I could succeed in their environments. And I became pretty damn good at fitting in, at least when it comes to appearances. I looked like I belonged, I acted like I belonged, and I really figured out how to get approval in all these different environments. I basically just turned into a chameleon. So I was changing color and shape everywhere I went so that I could feel like people there liked me. But here's what's crazy. No matter how much I looked like I belonged, I still never truly felt like I belonged on the inside. I still felt different. I still spent every single minute worrying about what other people were thinking of me and trying to prove to them that I could fit in with them. But fast forward to today, and I am here to celebrate with you that I no longer feel that way. I am free to just be myself, to speak my truth, and to allow myself to feel safe with people. And I want those same breakthroughs for you. So now I'm going to share with you the 3 mindset hacks that I use to really start to cultivate this ability to break free of worrying how other people are feeling about me, this constant obsession I had to belong, and so that you can do the same thing, so that you can be free from worry, be the person that you truly are, speak your truth, feel safe around people, and build genuine, intimate relationships with people. So the first mindset hack to stopping that worry about what people think about you all the time is to ditch your own self-judgment. So here's what I mean by that. A lot of times we're going places and we're worried that people are going to judge us. You know, they'll think I'm stupid, they'll think I'm emotional, they'll think I'm too much, they'll think I'm, there's a million ways we worry about how we'll be judged. But the fact is that if you pause in the moment of that worry about other people judging you, what is actually usually more true is that you're judging yourself for that quality, and you're projecting that judgment onto other people. So chances are you learned when you were young that there are certain qualities that you're not supposed to possess. Maybe you're not supposed to be emotional. Maybe you're not supposed to be stupid. Maybe you're not supposed to be lazy. Maybe you're not supposed to rest. Maybe you're not supposed to think about yourself. You should always put other people in front of you. Whatever it is you learned, right? You learn that these are qualities of bad people, and I don't want to identify with those qualities, right? I don't want to, be those qualities. And so you walk around with this constant sense of self-judgment of like, okay, I don't want to look too emotional here. I don't want to look too self-centered here. I don't want to look too weird here. I don't want to look like anything that, I've been taught is bad, And again, that's not necessarily a conscious thought going on, but this is your subconscious blueprint that you developed when you were young. And so to work on releasing yourself of the judgment that supposedly you think is coming from other people, you have to start with the judgment you're directing towards yourself. So, for example, I run a program, it's called Divine Living, and I run that program in batches. And it's a 5-person batch in general. It creates a lot of intimacy, a lot of connection. It's a really amazing group coaching program. But I, had a batch start a few months ago where 2 people kind of had to drop out last minute for, unforeseen reasons. And so that batch only had 3 people in it. And I was going into that batch with this mindset of, holy shoot, like these people are going to think I'm incompetent. They're going to be angry that I didn't, fill this batch with the exact right number of people, or they're going to think, not enough people want to work with me. And I was bringing on all of these, I was projecting onto them all of these judgments that I was actually feeling inside of myself, right? And so I had to come into myself and say, wait a second, do I believe that I'm incompetent? Do I believe something's wrong with me because I didn't fill that batch to the perfect number? Do I believe that my work isn't helpful or worthy, and that's why this isn't, any longer a full batch? If I believe that, then I have to work on those negative thoughts, right? And so, what that would mean is starting to challenge them, right? Starting to challenge and look for evidence of the fact that I am a good coach, that I do create value, that people do love working with me, which there's plenty of evidence, right? So I had to move my mind into that and really focus on releasing that judgment. And from that place, I actually was like, hey, if I wasn't judging myself about this, then I wouldn't be worried about them judging me, because, the fact that there's only 3 people in that batch, who cares? They get more one-on-one coaching with me. They get, to bond more deeply with one another, really, really have that intimate connection between just that small group. There's all these great things, but I couldn't even see those potential positive judgments and thoughts because I was so buried in my own self-judgment. So the question, you want to pause when you're worried about people judging you and just say, how am I judging myself right now? And can I work with my opinion of myself, my perspective of myself based on the evidence in my life so I can free myself from that judgment, right? Because here's a great example. If somebody came to you and said, oh my gosh, your rainbow hair looks ridiculous and you have black hair, then you're going to be like, well, that's a crazy person. Like, I don't have rainbow hair. I have black hair, right? So what are they judging? They must be crazy, not me. Nothing's wrong with me. Right? And so you wouldn't worry about that judgment if you knew deeply that it's not true. And so similarly, if you know deeply that, that you accept yourself and you love yourself and you embrace who you are, then if people are, saying like, oh, you're too emotional or you're too weird or you're too smart or you think too much or you this too much, right? But you're at peace with it and you know who you are and you're accepting it, then you're going to be like, well, that's stupid. That's their thought. That's not true for me. And it's going to be a lot easier to release it if you don't hold that belief and that judgment towards yourself. So you have to work on that self-judgment first before we can even attend to the judgment of other people. The second hack to eliminating that worry about what people think of you is to recognize projection from them. So, as I just told you before, sometimes you project onto other people, like, oh, I think I'm weird, and so I'm projecting that they think I'm weird. Or I think I'm too emotional, so I'm projecting that onto them and thinking that they must be judging me that way, right? And that's why we wanted to, in that first step, clean up self-judgment so you're not projecting that judgment onto other people. But the same is true in the other direction. Right? Sometimes people will judge you. Sometimes people will think you're, too weird or too out of control or too emotional or whatever. And what's important for you to realize is that their analysis and their judgment of you has actually nothing to do with some objective high standard of how you should be. But instead it has to do with parts of them that they don't accept, parts and ways of themselves that they are judging and rejecting. And so if they grew up and they think, for example, it's not safe or lovable, right, to be a spontaneous person, it's better to be planned and organized, then if you're this kind of free-spirited, spontaneous person, of course, they're going to criticize you, right? They're going to judge you and say, you're not organized, you don't have your stuff together, you don't have a plan, right? Because they have been taught that it's not good to be that way, that it's not safe, it's not lovable. And that's true for them, right? But they're just projecting that onto you. That doesn't mean that's your reality. That doesn't mean that being a spontaneous person isn't good for you and being more organized would really be in service to your soul and your development. And so, similarly, right, I have this happen all the time with emotionality. People tell me all the time, you're so emotional, Caitlin. You're so emotional, Caitlin. And I recognize right away, those are people who have not come to peace with their own emotions. They don't know how to feel sad and not collapse into it. They don't know how to feel guilt and work with that. They don't know how to feel shame and work with that. They don't know how to feel anger and work with that in productive ways. And because they're so scared of their own emotions, when I get emotional, it's, they project onto me that it's a bad thing because they can't handle it. They can't deal with it themselves. And so I stopped worrying about what other people are thinking when I recognize that it's a projection of them. And the only way to change their opinion of me is not by me changing who I am, but by them getting to work on their own thoughts and their own beliefs and their own judgments. And that's not my job. My job is to do that first step we talked about of working on my own judgments within my own heart and within my own self. And the same is true for you. And the final tip, the final mindset hack that I can give you for releasing this worry about what other people are thinking of you is to stay in your own lane. And so here's the thing, right? When you go and you're seeking approval and you're trying to get approval from other people and you want them to like you so that you can feel like you belong, the truth is that even when you do get approval from people, right? Even when they do say, you're smart or you're successful or you're great or we love you or whatever, they're honoring you and praising you. Even when you do get that approval from people, does it really make you feel like you belong? No. It makes you feel an ego-based high for about 10 seconds or less. And then it fades and you start wondering, how do I please this person? How do I please this person? How do I go to the next level? Even though I've already pleased this person, now I need to continue pleasing this person and getting their approval and making them like me. So what do they want from me now? And what do they want from me now? And it's this ever-going chase to please people, to have them judge you in a positive way, and you completely get out of your lane. And what I mean by that is, imagine if you're driving and you're changing into this person's lane and living in their values and living in what they need, and then you're changing into this person's lane and you're living for their values and living for their needs, and you're never actually in your lane, living your values, living your truth, living what your soul is here to live and do. And so staying in your lane means getting crystal clear on what your unique values are and how you embody them every single day, every single moment, every single choice, every single relationship, every decision, on what your strengths are, on the things that bring you joy, and really what the core beliefs are that you have about the world and how you want to embody them. So really getting crystal clear on who you are, what your calling, your purpose, your values, your work in the world is, beyond just pleasing other people, which is not very value-adding work, right? When you get really crystal clear on who you are and you live true to that every day, that builds a sense of pride, a sense of self-confidence, a sense of self-love that is just so bright and so shining that you don't even want to go into other people's lanes anymore. You love being in your lane. You love knowing that you value so deeply, the environment, and that you are showing up and tending to the environment every day, and you can feel the pride and the self-esteem of that, right? Similarly, if you work in sales, which is a typically competitive field, but you really value collaboration, you have to figure out either how to get out of sales or how to work on a sales team in a collaborative way, right? You have to stay in your lane and live your values over and over and over. And that is how you start to feel good about you, and you don't need that approval. You don't need that positive judgment for other people because you get it from your true self. And by the way, when you're really living your values and your truth and speaking it and hanging out in the spaces that honor your values, my goodness, you are going to meet your tribe. You are going to create a sense of belonging that is real and authentic with people who honor the truth of who you are. So that's the beauty of living in these times, is that we actually can find our own tribe by staying in our lane, being our authentic self, and seeing who that brings in. Right? But originally, that original tribe that you might have been brought into life with, your family or your society, that might not be the tribe that really creates that sense of belonging. So, to stop worrying about people, you got to put those three things together. You have to, number one, really work on getting rid of your own self-judgment and come into self-acceptance. Number two, you want to make sure you recognize projection and just hand that back to people. Let people work through their own limiting beliefs about who they're allowed to be and what's a good quality and what's a bad quality. And third, you want to really stay in your lane, live your values, embody your truth, and attract people to that authentic version of you. Therefore, you will feel safe within yourself, you will love yourself, and you will find your tribe and not worry all the time about getting that low level of approval. So I hope this video is helpful for you. Please make a comment below if you have thoughts or questions. I'd love to talk more about belonging and social anxiety and how we can really move the needle on this together. Because you watched my class, you qualify for a complimentary Breakthrough to Joy call with me. We're going to meet one-on-one on Zoom and dive deep into your psyche and into your life together. And I'm going to show you how you can create more joy and fulfillment from the inside out, no matter how stressed you feel or disconnected. Even if you consider yourself a super caring, conscious person, I'm going to show you the specific joy-limiting beliefs and behaviors that you might not be seeing yourself and the steps to overcome them. All you need to do is click on the link below to book your free Breakthrough to Joy call with me right now. I'll talk to you soon. Mwah!